Subtracting mixed numbers by renaming. Sometimes when we subtract mixed numbers, we have to rename the first one in order to do the subtraction. And here's an example of what I'm talking about here. If you have 2 1/3, and you want to take 1 2/3 away from that, normally you're going to subtract the fractions first, and then you subtract the whole numbers. And some people like to see the fractions written on top of each other when they do subtraction. And it may make more sense for you to do it this way. 1/3 minus 2/3. Well, you can't take 2/3 away from 1/3. Normally, when we do that with a regular subtraction problem, and I'll write an example of that over here. If you have 13 minus 4, well, a 3, you can't take a 3 away from a 4. Well, let's change it to 23. A 23 minus 4. Well, you can't take 4 away from 3, so you have to borrow 1 to make that a 13. And 13 minus 4, well, that's 9. And then 1 minus 0, that's 1. Okay, so we're going to use a similar approach with the fractions. We need to borrow 1 from this 2 to make this 1/3 bigger so that we could take 2/3 away from it. And let me draw a picture to show you visually how we can do that. So if you have 2 1/3, okay, let's say you have 2, so that's 2 wholes and 1/3 of a whole. Okay, so that's what we're talking about, and we want to take away 1 2/3. So we have 1/3 and 2/3. Okay, well, normally you subtract the fraction, so you try to take 2/3 away from this 1/3. Well, you can't do that. So we need to borrow 1 from the 2. And the way we do that is take the second whole and divide it into thirds. So the 2/3 is actually equal to 1 whole, and 1, 2, 3, 4/3. 1, 2, 3, 4/3. That may look a little odd to you because it's a mixed number with an improper fraction as the mixed part, but it allows us to do our subtraction that we need to do. So we have 1 whole and 4/3 on top, and then 1 whole and 2/3 on the bottom. So when you take 2/3 away from the 4/3, 2/3 away from the 4/3, you're left with 2/3, right? And here, let's write that over here. So we're changing 2 1/3 to 1 4/3, and then we're going to take away 1 2/3. Okay, so 4/3 minus 2/3, well, that's just 2/3. And then 1 minus 1 is 0, and we don't need to write that. So our answer is 2/3, which visually we can see that. If we take away 1 2/3, then we're just left with 2/3. Right? We're just left with these 2/3. Okay, and that should make sense for you. Let's do one more example just to see how we can rename the fractions. Okay, let's do 5 1/3. 5 1/3, and we're going to take away 3 3/4. 3 3/4. Okay, this one's not quite as straightforward, but you should be able to tell that 1/3 is not larger than 3/4. But we're going to have to change our fractions so that they have the same denominator. and then we're going to have to borrow or rename. So the first step is changing the fractions so they have the same denominator. And the least common multiple of 3 and 4 is going to be 12. They both go into 12. So let's look at the top one. The top one, we're going to have to multiply the 3 by a 4. And then we get our 12 on the bottom. And 1 times 4 is 4 on the top. And we still have the 5. And then on the bottom, we have to multiply the 4 by 3. So we do the same thing to the top. And you get 9 twelfths. And then you still have your 3 here. Okay, so now we have the same denominator, but we can't take 9 away from 4. So we need to rename the top mixed number. And I'm going to rewrite it down here. We have 5 and 4 twelfths minus 3 and 9 twelfths. Okay, I just rewrote it. Now we need to borrow from the 5. So that's going to become 4. And when we borrow 1, it's going to become 12 over 12. Right? I hope you see that 5 is the same thing as 4 and 12 over 12. Because 12 over 12 is just 1. And then you have 4. So that's going to equal 5. So this right here is equal to 5. And then you also have your extra 4 twelfths. So and you also have another 4 twelfths. So total, that's going to give you 16 twelfths. So it'll be 4 and 16 twelfths. Okay, so that's going to be our top fraction. And then the bottom, we stay the same. So 3 and 9 twelfths. Now we have it in a form where we can do the subtraction. 16 minus 9 is going to give us 7. So 7 twelfths. And then 4 minus 3 will give us 1. And visually, we could draw that out again if you need to see that. So 5 and 4 twelfths. 5 ones, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 4 twelfths. Let's do it like this. So we have 5 and 4 twelfths, and we're going to take away 3 and 9 twelfths. 1, 2, 3, and 9 twelfths will look like 9 twelfths. So there's 4 twelfths, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Okay, we'll have to borrow. We're borrowing 12 twelfths away from this 5 on the top. So we're going to cut one of those up into 12 pieces. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So this is to show you that 5 and 4 twelfths will become 4, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. And there's 12 twelfths and another 4 twelfths makes it 16 twelfths. That's how we got this. Okay, this is just a brief lesson on how to rename mixed numbers so that you can do your subtraction. And you should have a pretty good understanding of the concept. Now all that's left to do really is to practice this so that you can do it without confusion.